Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Right, welcome to the Hub Velo Ride Captains evening. So just a brief sort of summary on what is really expected of being a ride captain, basically. The most important thing is that you are representing the club as a ride captain. So key responsibility is one, providing a route. Secondly, providing a ride, decent ride, enjoyable ride for the people that you're going to be taking out. So part of the new, well, not new, but ride captain responsibilities will be additional to the COVID. So apart from obviously leading the ride and navigating, really it's everyone's responsibility, but also when we're doing stops, just making sure people are still spaced out, social distancing is being acknowledged. So, you know, common sense, what we've all been doing for the past year, really. Additionally, if someone has a puncture, whereas before we would all jump in and help out, maybe this time around, for the time being, is if someone's going to help the person, the other person has to step away from their bike, bearing in mind touching other people's tools, other people's equipment. So please bear that in mind when we're out on a ride. It's not the ride leader or ride captain's responsibility to repair someone else's bike. In fact, it's actually the complete opposite. If you touch someone else's bike, it becomes your responsibility when it goes worse or gets worse. So, but the main thing about being a ride captain is, or what is a ride captain? It's someone that's going to take ownership of a ride with other people following you. So those people are essentially looking to go out to have a nice time, whether it be a slower ride where it's more social and chatting. It may be a faster ride where people want to get their head down and stretch their legs a bit. But whatever way it is, everyone wants to come back with a smile on their face. So when you arrange a ride on the meetup, be a nice amicable person. Speak to everyone, get to know everyone's name before you go out. Take a bit of, 5 minutes, just have a quick chat amongst the group. It's an easy thing to do. So secondly is, obviously, a leading ride is a route. I think this is one of the key elements of leading a ride, is the route, whether you take it from the route library or from your own library, or make one up on Komoot, ride with GPS or Strava the night before, but is to know that route inside out before you go out. As a ride captain, you are carrying responsibilities, maintaining the group, keeping the group together. You're looking out for potholes, you're looking out for traffic, you're trying to look behind you to make sure no one's dropping off, you're making sure no one's half-wheeling, no one's surging. So by knowing the route and not having to keep looking down at your GPS all the time, makes life damn sight easier. If you're coming up to a junction, your head's down, you're not really looking, and suddenly you swing your arm left, you've got potentially 2 rows behind you or 5 people behind you at the moment that are suddenly all going to have to do the same. So just by knowing the route in advance, where you're going, general sort of direction is the essence, really, to what leading a ride is. Additionally, other things to note when you're leading a ride and direction that you're going to go, it's actually much easier to do a counterclockwise ride than it is a clockwise ride, especially in groups. The reason is left-hand turns are damn sight easier to get round in a group than what a right-hand turn is, because you're not crossing a junction, you're going with the flow. So it's a very simple thing, but again, it's something to bear in mind. It's, you know, when you are controlling groups, it's little things like that that make your life a lot easier. So a counterclockwise route, obviously not every junction is going to be left-hand turn, but if you can make the majority of them, so much the better.
Can I just give, I'm going to give everyone a bit of background why we've actually adjusted the naming of it from ride leader to ride captain. Maybe that's if people want to know. The reason why we decided as a club to move away from the word leader is that it gave a pretense and a level of responsibility that we felt on people not taking it up, because they felt that leading meant sitting on the front for 100k, doing all these things, which actually what we're trying to do is allow people to have the tools and the support from the club to basically get the ball rolling in terms of allowing people to start riding together. So we felt captain was a bit more, obviously you want to be leader of the captain of the pack, you want to be like this, you're this facilitator, but obviously historically people thought leader would be sitting in the front for 100k into a headwind, creating everything, doing everything. However, it's not. We want to kind of move away from that, and instead of having strong riders, give people a range of tools, such as the ride library, which is all on the website now, which after Ker's finished, I'll show you, where it's a range of rides from small to long. Another thing, just to kind of on this, maybe Kev will pick this up later, but feedback back to us, especially Kev, is really important. And if you're not sure about something or concerned or want to give feedback, it's really positive feedback. It's really positive that you kind of say back as well. Because what you'll find, majority of us are all very strong riders, is it won't take much to kind of bring someone along and say, you could do this, this is not an issue. Why have you never done this before? Well, I don't really know what I'm doing. So this is the kind of the premise to support each other and to help each other. So that's kind of the background to why we've kind of evolved it from ride leader to ride captain.
Okay. Cheers, Andy. Andrew. Yeah, so essentially, come back to it. So from the point of if you're going to captain a ride, choosing a route, selecting a meeting point, the club, we're going to be using the Spond app to create rides from now on, or for time being until things get back to normality. Part of the reason for the Spond app is for the track and trace, which is a requirement for restarting. Obviously, Steve has published a route today and it's filled up very nicely, and there's someone already on the waiting list. He's managed to put a linker ride to it, so hopefully that works, but we'll keep an eye on that, and whether we need to use a WhatsApp group or not, we can debate that later. So essentially, those are the basis of the Hub Velo. So going back to actually leading a ride, so from the point of everyone meeting up, it's, you know, in terms of what Andrew's saying, yes, the word ride leader does have the connotation of being scary. There's a lot of, the onus on it. And fairness, ride leading is actually not as difficult as you think it is. It's actually quite an enjoyable experience. People do tend to sort of, I think respect isn't the right word for it, but get admiration that you're doing it. So there's a very enjoyable side to it as well, which until you take a couple of rides out, it's when you realize that people appreciate what you're doing. So in terms of if you were going to taking a ride out, sorry, you'll know that sound. Sorry. Yeah, so in terms of from people planning a ride, if you are going to take it up, so get your ride knowledge in advance, get your route. You can either sort of lead regular, just post it to me and I will submit the ride onto Spond. At the moment, obviously we're limited to only 6 people, so we are going to have, I believe at current rate, we've got 176 members at the moment. So if we divide that down into 6, we end up with a lot of rides going out on Saturday morning. And we do, as we always have, is require people to come forward and captain rides with us. So, and from that point of view, it's, sorry, I'm just reading the bottom. We'll come back to the questions in a moment, but I think someone's answering for me. Thank you. So in terms of, right, so leading, actually taking a ride, captaining a ride, essentially we're going to be selecting a meeting point, and at that point 5 other people will be joining you who have registered on the ride from Spond. So we'll select a location where you're going to leave from. We're trying to organise a ride so that they leave 10-15 minutes apart. We will be using 4 different locations, but we're trying to obviously stop rides grouping together going up Leabridge Road. So we don't want sort of Ice Rink and Leabridge Station leaving together, because by the time they get to Whipps Cross, it'd be a group of 12. And from a perceived public point of view, it doesn't look good for the club and it doesn't look good for the shop if there's a lot of jerseys going on in Hub Velo gear. So meeting points, starting times, be selected. We have also renamed the rides from ABC to, as you've probably seen on the website, and if you've joined onto the Spond app, I believe, I'm trying to remember what they are now, which was the 22, sorry, I'm going to have to refresh that one.
Do you want me to do it, Kev?
If you've got it handy, Andy.
Yeah, just give me 2 seconds. So basically what we've done is originally, historically, we only had 1 ride, which is a Wednesday. And then it slowly evolved into 3 rides. And then basically as the club's grown, and as the members have grown and the abilities have grown, there's different levels now. So obviously you've got people who have just got into cycling, so that's kind of the C, so that's kind of the latte kind of stuff. But however, we've noticed that the B group is quite a big range, and then obviously you've got the Willies of the world who are smashing it around, tubeless and these tires, all that kind of stuff. So basically what we have done is we've kind of taken that away and then another rebrand. So if I can just quickly get it up. So basically what we've done, so starting from, and obviously gravel and off-road mountain biking has become more popular. So we've got instant, which is like a instant coffee, so like i.e. mud. We've got a latte ride, which is kind of the C, so historically C, so that's 22 to 24. Cappuccino ride, which is 24 to 26. Flat white, which is like historically the B, so that'd be 26 to 28. Espresso ride, so that is the ones where you want to pick up a little bit, so that's got a bit of a bigger range, so that is a 28 to 32 range. And then we've got double espresso, which is just probably pure racing, which is probably a 31, 32, 33 kilometers per hour there. So we've kind of done a wee cheeky wee brand on that. I guess just to caveat that is that if you have got if you've got a decent, obviously tailwinds, headwinds, all that kind of stuff, it's just to give you an idea. And also we want to give people the ability to slowly move up this pace if they want, give them the opportunity. So obviously if you're going from like a C ride, which you say you're used to 24 clicks an hour, to like a B ride, which is slightly more faster, it gives people the opportunity to kind of get used to that and be part of that. So the jump is not so big and the gap doesn't seem as large.
Thank you, Andrew. Just change the Spond one to instant from hot chocolate as well. Those are wrong. Okay, so essentially, yeah, the reason for the change was why not? Was essentially Hub Velo, we all go back for a coffee. We're sort of getting a lot of stuff about C plus, B minus, B plus, A minus. So let's change it up. Well, let's be different from the other clubs. So, right. As regards to some basic information for ride leading, what sort of thing is, what to expect, what to do, and just some, basics of what makes it easier to captain a ride.
Sorry, Kev, just before we go into the detail, I just want to reiterate this point. If a member arrives and they've not signed up, they cannot join a club ride. Exactly the same with, they have to sign up with using the application. Yeah. The reason why is it's got track and tracing, and we've got a documented history of all members within that ride. So in theory, if one of them gets ill, we can able to track that back to them. If it's an official club ride and they're not done by the app, they cannot join. End of. No excuses. No, oh, I don't have the app. Download the app and join. That is it. That is fundamentally, because fundamentally, if they join and everyone gets sick, that is, we're liable as a club, and it's unfair on the others. And if they don't, you can't go. That's just generally the rule. I know that's pretty strict. However, on the flip side, if you make the same 6 people, which is not a club ride, that is on your prerogative. But we're representing the club, so we have to follow the rules on that one.
Yeah, which is a very valid point. Very valid. Just while Andrew's going over obviously we got notification last week from BC what the final guidelines and governances are to allow us to reopen. You will have seen, obviously, on posts and Instagram that BC have allowed rides of up to 15. As a club, and through the survey that we done, the feedback that we got essentially dictated to us that our members were happiest in groups of 6 still. So that was why we went with it. The group of 15 rule only applies to BC affiliated clubs. It doesn't apply to the public. If there are clubs going out in groups of 15, to be honest with you, at the meeting, there was 300 people on the Zoom call, and the majority of the clubs were all saying, no, we're staying with 6. So it's an agreement. That is the essence of it. In terms of general cycling for general public, it's still only at groups of 6. So BC have made their decision, and as a club, we've made our own individual decision, which we feel is more than acceptable, and that's the one we're going with. So, sorry, I'm just going to turn my phone over and messages keep coming through. Right, there's lots of messages going through. Right, so basics of captaining a ride, what to expect, what's expected of you. Generally, we're all cyclists. We're out to enjoy it. So as the ride captain, you are representing the club to essentially take people out, show them a route, show them how to do a loop of Essex, a loop of Kent, take them out and bring them back safely with a smile on their face. So how to do that and make it easier for yourself to lead rides, some very basics. When you first meet up with the 6 people, as I said, be nice and friendly, have a chat, get to know their names. Additionally, have a quick look over their bikes. If you see someone has turned up and their tyres are running bald, or they've got buckled wheels, their gears are rusty, cables look manky, chances are that bike isn't going to make the ride. It's quite a hard call to make, but essentially that could slow the ride down and ruin it for everybody. So if someone turns up and they've got frayed tyres, brake cables frayed, and the bike doesn't look like it's going to make it, might be fair to take that person to one side and say, look, appreciate that you've come along, but your bike doesn't look like it's roadworthy, get it sorted, maybe come back next week. It's one of the things that can easily be prevented from spoiling everyone else's ride. So in terms of bike maintenance, you can ask everyone to do a bike check, as Kelvin sort of pointed out last night. Just a quick run through the bike, check your headset, check your brakes, check things aren't loose, nothing's rattling. Again, if something's not right, maybe come back next week after you've taken the bike up the shop and had it repaired. If you go on the BC website, or there was a link I put on the Ride Captains about, it's called an M check, which essentially is what Kelvin went over last night. So again, simple little thing that can cause disruption on your ride, you've eliminated straight away. In regards to organising the ride, there's something which I can't remember the name of, but within the first mile of your ride, if you've got people with you that you've never rode with before, it's within the first mile that you're going to get a good indication of what their bike handling skills are like, potentially what their character's like. So within that first mile of riding, maybe not lead from the front, maybe lead from behind. Sorry, distractions on the bottom. I'll catch up with those later. So yeah, within that first mile of riding, maybe lead from the back. If it's going up Leabridge Road, using the bike lane, which again was on Kelvin's questions last night. But again, I would actually, and I believe my personal view is to use the bike lane, but keep the speed well down. Unfortunately, I live off of Leabridge Road, and coming home tonight, I've got someone been knocked off. So it's not safest, but neither is the road. Nowhere's safe. You've got to keep your eyes open, keep looking out. Other basics for controlling the ride would be when you're pulling away from lights. It's very easy to sort of get yourself clipped in, start pedaling off, not look over your shoulder, and then within half a mile, the group has been split to pieces for some reason, because maybe the person that was behind you didn't manage to get their clip in, and then suddenly everyone else has slowed down, people have overtaken, someone sat behind. So when you're pulling away from lights or a junction, take it nice and easy. Just roll out, roll forward. Make sure, give it, 100 meters, look off shoulder, look over your shoulder, and just check everyone's there. Everyone's back in either two up or single file. But yeah, it's just controlling the group, making it enjoyable for everyone. No one suddenly having to do some sprints to catch up very early in a ride. Additionally, stopping. If you're coming up to lights and they're sort of going to amber, if you're captaining a ride, most of the time you will be at the front. Well, we'll get into that in a minute. When you do a ride briefing at the start of your ride, sorry, that's something I forgot to mention, is to just say, if we get split at traffic lights, don't worry, we'll stop and regroup on the other side. So it's that way you're controlling the group, you're not putting anyone at risk by getting them to jump red lights to chase after you. And it's just a safer environment. Additionally, when if you're coming up to red lights, you've seen the lights red, slow the pace down as you're pulling up to lights, even from 200 meters away. Just start slowing the group down. Hopefully the lights will go green, you don't have to stop, and you can just continue on the ride. They're little things that are very basic, but they keep it going. They keep the ride flowing. You don't have to stop starts. Just going back quickly, when you meet up with your group, just have a quick chat. Let them know what to expect on the ride. If you get traffic lights, please don't jump, and we wait up on the other side. We wait 200 meters up the road. Where you're going, what speed you're going to do, where you're going to stop. Are you going to have additional water stops, toilet stops? Just little things like that in a sort of pre-ride briefing. Again, it's just a way to talk to people, get to know people. So I don't think there's no harm in doing it every ride. Doesn't matter whether you've ridden with people for 10, 15 times. We'll like to know where we're going. We'll like to know what to expect when we're out on a ride. If leading a ride, this again came up on Kelvin's last night regarding if there's sprints and climbs. Again, it's something that's agreed within the group or from the ride captain. It's down to you how you want to not control your ride, but how you want your ride to be ridden. I always sort of emphasize people to, if there's a segment, go for it, but wait at the top. But it's letting people know beforehand when and where it's going to happen. So never be afraid to stop a ride. It may disrupt the flow momentarily, but in the long run, it will benefit everyone in the group. So if you're coming up to Banks Lane in Essex and someone there is going to go flying off the front, okay, stop the ride, a mile before, half a mile before, and let everyone know what's going to happen. If you do it at the start of the ride, they may not know where Banks Lane is, they don't know how far into the ride it is or where to stop. So if you do it a mile before, you say, we're going to pull over in a nice safe place, and explain where we are, how far to the climb or the sprint, explain how long it is, and then just say, once you get to a certain point, stop and wait, and then we'll regroup, and then restart the ride and move through. It's everyone then gets to appreciate the climb itself, because they'll know where it is, where it's going to start, and then everyone gets to have a little breather at the top, hopefully, because everyone's putting a nice effort to get up top. So again, it's just so never be afraid to stop a ride, as long as it's obviously in a safe place, and then it's makes it more enjoyable for everyone. Distance of ride, especially at the moment, because we don't really know how much people have been riding. Obviously, under lockdown guidance, we was all riding within our own abilities. So initially, it's sort of nice to sort of keep an eye on each other when you're riding. So if you see someone sort of already gone through a water bottle and you're only 20 miles in, maybe keep quite a sort of beneficial eye on that person. And ultimately, their actual thing is not your complete responsibility, but as a group, the more that ride goes on, the longer that person's going to suffer, that person's going to slow the group down. So it's always nice just to sort of keep an eye out on people, make sure, ask people, is everyone okay? How you feeling? You feeling good? Do you want to stop? Do you need a break? So there's sort of little, again, just little things that help the group move forward and more enjoyable for everyone. You don't want to sort of be getting to Chigwell Row on the way back and find that the ride speed has gone right down to 12 miles an hour because someone's blown up. Other sort of thing is it's not a hard thing to do, but it's also speaking to people in the group that are disrupting the ride. So, and I don't mean by verbally, but majority of time someone may be surging, half wheeling, forcing the pace, and in that sense, that makes the ride uncomfortable for everyone. So sometimes it's just sort of, asking someone to, I'll slow it down a bit. There's no need for doing that. And you're sort of forcing the pace up. Just let everyone know what's going on. If someone is sort of, continually disrupting the ride, pull over, have a stop. There's no need to be, argumentative or aggressive, but take them to one side and just ask them to kindly, get in the spirit of the ride and not trying to create their own ride. It does happen, but at the same time, it can be stopped. And the sooner you do it in a ride, the better it is for everyone else. But fortunately, it's not very often. It's not very often that happens. So, but it is something to look out for. Another, going back to, say, leading off the front, predominantly, if you're leading slower rides, yes, predominantly you will be leading off front. Normally, you'd have quite a few beginners in the group. They wouldn't necessarily know the routes, they won't know the way, they might not have a GPS to download the route onto, so they won't know where they're going. As you tend to go up in the groups, you will find that people will download the route. They're obviously higher pace, they go out cycling on their own, they will know the area. So at that point, as a ride captain, you still rotate the group. If you're riding, you don't have to sit on the front all the time. Through and off, ride at the back. Essentially, as long as you know, if you're coming up to a junction, everyone's aware that it's coming up, so you can just shout it through. Turning left, turning right, slowing. So again, your ride as a captain, you don't, as Andrew said, you're not expected to sit on the front of a ride for 100 kilometers going full gas, unless you want to. It's entirely your choice, but yeah. So again, as the modern with British cycling, the modern remit of riding in group is essentially to have 2 ride leaders, but the main lead or captain, but his lead will ride at the back of a group. And if they're riding on their own, it is still that they would ride at the back of the group and then come to the front at junctions. If you're in a big group of 16 people, you'd have 2 ride leads, and they would actually change positions, or it's actually 3 ride leads, big pardon. They would actually change positions throughout the whole ride. So every time you come to a junction, they will be rotating. And it's actually based on the police motorcycle when they're escorting Prime Minister, or I'm trying to remember the words, not cavalcade, but something like that. And it works very well if it's done properly. But say it's different, you can lead from the front, but essentially if you're doing mid-range rides, if you're doing, as we're now calling, flat white, going up to Espresso Plus, you're not expected to sit on the front all day long. Yeah, so get in there, enjoy it, rotate, chat with different people, and enjoy it yourself. So right, coming to the end of a ride. Yes, thank you. The word I was forgetting. One of it is, obviously at the moment, if we're doing stops, if we're stopping at CAFs, which are now starting to reopen, you can certainly go and get McDonald's. It's sort of suffering it every morning at the moment. Once the ride has pulled over, and yes, once the ride has pulled over and stopped at the CAF stop, the social distancing goes back to normal guidelines, which is 2 meters, I believe it still is. When you're riding, we get 1 meter plus mitigation, which is being allowed under the sports guidance. Once a ride stops, and before a ride, you are expected, or everyone is expected, to follow normal government guidelines. So again, we're obviously all used to it. We know what's going on. So it's just being sensible and reminding people, really. Not going to sort of hang around on that point anymore. I think we've all had enough of it. So, yep, cab stops, toilet stops, those sort of things, just a reminder of that. Coming to the end of a ride. So again, if you are, as I sort of mentioned briefly beforehand, it's towards the end of a ride that you tend to find people start dropping away, they're getting tired, they may have joined the group that was a little bit much for them. So again, if you do have someone, if you are doing a route that comes back up through Stapleford Abbots going into Chigwell Row, the top of the hill coming out Stapleford is a very well-known place for people to suddenly lose their legs on a ride. Seen it many times. You have the options there with the bakery and the shop to refuel someone, but it's also a time, it's not necessary all the time, but occasionally it can be a time when you might have to split a ride, or it will happen naturally when people start riding away from you. It's a case that someone's blown up completely and you know they're not going to be able to maintain the pace of the group. So in that situation, personally, I sort of stop the group, have a chat, always a group discussion, and see how people feel. And occasionally you'll get people that need to get back quickly and get back home. And some people say, no, I'll stay and ride back. So it's a point where you can actually split a group. It's a group decision. As a ride captain, someone may offer to leave, bring the person back in. My personal thing, I always try and bring people back in and release the rest of the group, but it's completely at your discretion to do whatever you want to do. The main thing that I personally ask is that you don't leave someone out there. That's my only, it doesn't look good for the club really. So, okay, so coming back, finishing rides, I believe the best practice at the moment is to finish a ride where you start it. So if you started at the ice rink, finish it at the ice rink. Again, as Kelvin said yesterday, try and limit Leabridge Road. I always try and finish rides at Whipps Cross. You've got the sprint coming down to the pub on the right hand side. Everyone gets a nice little turn out there, spin your legs off, get to the junction where the new bus station is, and then just nice and easy ride back down into Leabridge Road. Yeah, it's, someone once described Leabridge Road as this was before the bike lane, but the scene in Star Wars where the fighters drop into the Death Star. So, which I thought was actually quite a nice analogy. That was so long before the bike lane. Yeah.
Kevin, I'm just conscious of the time.
Yeah, certainly.
So I'm going to open up to questions people have about any of the things. Generally, one at a time would be appreciated.
Are we able to decide our own start time and choose one of the 4 locations?
So you can choose your own location, you can choose your own start time, just make it clear and obvious to people.
Thank you.
Could we just add on that, Andrew, that obviously if we're doing choose your own start time, that they check the events first and make sure you don't cross with anyone else? So a 10-15 minute gap would be appreciated. Also, anyone that's willing to lead a ride on Spond, if you let me know, and I've set up a different level for ride captains to actually be able to create events themselves. If not, just ask me and I will do it. That's fine.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Andy, I wrote the lineations of the rides, the different rides down last night, but I think that was slightly in Calvin's presentation, they were slightly different to how you described them. is there a definitive list of the respective categories and average speeds?
Yeah, this on the website, so I'll send you the link. It's on the FAQs on the website.
Brilliant.
In there.
Thank you.
I'll confirm just to make sure they're all right, aligned. Third question. Regarding elevation and distance, doesn't matter, choose what you like. You can choose a flat, you can choose if, for example, you go to Houndon Reservoir, it's flat. To be honest, as a ride captain, I generally do a route that I enjoy, is more importantly. And if it's punchy, it's punchy. If it's flat, it's flat. Like sometimes it's great just to go out to the reservoir and smash it for 4 hours and then come back. But other times there's loads of, if you want to do a climbing one. So up to you generally. Have set up a ride. Do you need spawn running on your phone on the day? I'm assuming that, Mark, that is assuming that is like to get notified of people arriving. What does that mean? Sorry. You can take yourself off mute if you want.
Hey, yeah, sorry, it's a beginner question because I know nothing about Spond at all. So you use it to set up rides with people and they book in and you organise a 6. But is there some requirement that you need to have it on your phone once you're on the ride?
Yeah, it's just to make sure that we can keep we know that you've got 5 other riders with you, and they are Kevin, Andrew, Stephen, Zach, and that's it.
Cool. I'm sure it'll become self-evident once I actually get it and log in and start using it.
To be honest, it's pretty easy. Like it's just like an appointment system, really. It's nothing too complicated.
Thanks. Yeah, cool.
One thing I realized after setting up an event that you have to invite everyone for people to see it and be able to respond to it. Because I had people messaging me going, "Oh, how can I accept if I'm not invited?" So just bear that in mind if you're setting up an event. Just do select all to all the members and then send the invite.
Cool.
After we've set up an event and we've got 6 people signed up, is it worth adding those 6 people to a direct WhatsApp group to spread information between the 6 people?
You could. There's an option to message that particular group privately.
Okay, so you could send the route direct to people that way, or
yes. Yeah.
Okay, and then you can have a conversation about the ride beforehand.
Yeah. So it creates like a mini sort of chat room.
Great, thank you. Can we use it for Zwift?
Yeah. Why not?
Good, sir. So at the moment, the people, the committee are admins on it, and at the moment only committee members can create events. So if you do want to create an event, please ping one of us and we will set you up to be able onto the level to create an event. But obviously, because GDPR, we can't give you full access.
Oh yeah, we can add you as that kind of admin.
Yeah, no problem.
I've got one more question, sorry. It's always me. Are we okay to use it to create club rides outside of Saturdays, or do you want to restrict rides to Saturday only?
Use it how you see fit. If you want to do a club ride on Bank Holiday Monday and it's theatre club, go for it. It's just a tool. We're not.
No, I know, but the clubs always maintain club rides were Saturday.
It's up to you, Dan. If you want to use that tool, go for it. You're more than welcome to.
Great, and it'd be classified as an official club ride.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
I think essentially that we wanted to restart the club on a Saturday because it's the way we've always sort of rode. You know, it is our traditional day for riding, but so we're not restricted with meeting at the shop, and that was all quite heavily, unfortunately, sort of an influence that It was a 9 o'clock kickoff, really. And Sundays, obviously, the shop never opened till 11. So, yeah, as Andrew said, please feel free to use it.
So just the non-members, our preference in priority is members first. And if there's space, you can bring non-members along, but our first priority is members on a club ride because we've not had them for a year. So that is our priority in that space.
Can I ask something?
Yes, go for it.
Go very shortly. So it's a little bit delicate, but so one reason why I've been reluctant to lead rides in the past is because so some people are over ambitious about what pace they think they can manage, and if I say I'm going to be home at a certain time and I'm not home at that time, it's like my cycling is toast for a week, right? So that's a real tax on me if someone joins a ride and I say I'm really clear it's going to be 28 kph average, and they really are going to struggle at over 23, right? And so I sort of think there's a lot of responsibility on ride leaders, but there should be some responsibility on people signing up for rides to be kind of honest or, you know, competent about what they're able to do. And so I can't stay out for an extra hour because someone has like what they can do.
So what my suggestion would be, I've been in that position before. What I've done is I've looked at someone's Strava. So for example, say you join my ride, I looked at your Strava, and then I looked at the last couple of weeks average pace.
Right.
And then you've kind of seen, for example, you see my average pace is 21, 22, 21, 21. Maybe then you have a conversation, like a polite conversation, and say, I need to get back. Do you mind if you drop out? Because I really want, this is the pace and this is going to be a hard effort.
I just, if it happens on a ride, you know, and the whole group is waiting for one person, and I mean,
you can also say to people, this is I need to be home. So if something happens, I'll have to go. That is fine. You've expressed yourself. You made it clear. You just got to make sure before you start that you say, has everyone got the route?
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. Has everyone got, they need to get back? Because if something happens, I need to get back. Like, for example, it's happened to me. I got a puncture. A couple of guys went. It didn't bother me because it was clear and obvious that was the agenda for the ride. He's got to make itself clear and transparent. That's all, really.
Yeah.
And just be honest and say, I've got childcare at 1 p.m. or I've got to see my look after my mother at 1 p.m. I've got to be back.
Yeah. And can I just ask, sort of related? So Kevin said at some point, you know, you might make a call on someone's bike at the beginning of a ride. I mean, I actually think that's probably quite hard to do, and say to someone, look, your bike's a bit like badly maintained, you can't come. But it sometimes happens on a ride that it becomes apparent that someone's got crap tires or whatever, and is having a puncture every half an hour. I mean, they're non-drop rides, but people sign up and they don't maintain the bike.
So I think you're in your right mind to put this as a drop ride if you want to do that. Like that is, if you want to lead a ride and say, for example, Willie and I have done drop rides where I've been spat at the back and I've had to go for 40k, 50k by myself. But that's the rules that you sign up to.
Yeah.
And if you make that clear and obvious and say this is the pace and it is a drop ride, and people are like, yep, I'll still do it. That's their prerogative.
Okay, thanks.
Can I pitch in? It occurs to me as well, if you really want to captain a ride for the day, but you've got a timetable, just consider maybe managing it very strictly yourself. So just say, okay, it's a 60k ride. I'll just get a short ride in. I've done my bit. I've taken some people out, but think about not setting yourself up for a situation where you might be getting anxiety about the time.
Right.
Because I think we're all agreed when you captain a ride, it has its rewards, but it's not necessarily the ride of a lifetime. You're kind of enabling other people to have a good ride, not yourself. So just just ditch that ride for that day and just say, okay, we're going to do a 60k ride, or you take out a latte group or something like that, and that's you done. And then another week when you want to, you can you not captain a ride and just join somebody else's ride, and then you can you've got more free agency to do what you want.
On those points
that well, I hope I have.
No, I'm with you, Mark. I think if you think you can do 70k, you just take 10k off and make it slightly shorter, just to give yourself a bit of a buffer. That might be one way of doing it. Or the other way of doing it is, if you look down the list of the people who are coming, there might be someone there who is an obvious. So if I was on your ride with you, Don, you'd be like, well, if I have to drop out, Daniel can take her. If I have to rush off and you can maybe earmark someone beforehand going, if we're running a bit behind schedule, is it possible that you can take over the ride leadership and I can head off? Possibly. That's another way of sort of doing it. If you have someone that's obviously a second, is in this group, you possibly could ask them in advance, if we have issues with timing and I've got to head off, are you able to grab the reins a little bit?
Yeah.
And sorry about the pronunciation of your name if that was wrong.
Who was that?
Daniel.
It's Diarmid. I didn't even hear you
David,
say it.
sorry.
No worries.
David.
No worries. So everyone says it differently. It's completely fine. I actually have to go and cook my kids' dinner. So thanks, everyone.
No worries, thank you.
Ciao.
Yeah, just going back to that, the B ride, and there has been quite a sort of discussion amongst members previously as to whether B rides should be drop rides or not. My personal opinion doesn't matter, but it's it's a club. My personal opinion is that if anyone is riding a B ride and they're riding that sort of pace, they are going to be sort of quite familiar with, possibly, unless they're new to the area, but particularly the lanes, but they're going to be quite up on how to use a sat nav, using road signs, how to get back. So yeah, I don't really see any problem with,
I generally don't either. As long as you say this is a drop ride and it's 70k, you must have the route.
Yeah.
I think it's just make itself clear and obvious. I think generally the clear, obvious to everyone that this is the situation. If this happens, but yeah.
Yeah. So again, it's that's something we can discuss behind the scenes a little bit more.
And another thing is, obviously, for feedback as well. Like, give us feedback. This is not set in stone. This is a moving beast, and as the club evolves and as you evolve as a rider, it's going to change and move. So, just let us know. Really, I think that's just generally the principle.
I think there's some B rides. It's generally nice to have something. I know Steve sort of likes to do a calf stop. Again, it's like a social, isn't it? It's almost like that social thing, the social interaction. Saturday, getting out and meeting people, but sometimes you may want to sort of be right. It's a bit faster, a bit pacier, and yeah, I've got to be back at 1 o'clock no matter what. But you're still willing to lead a ride, so yeah.
Just going back to like allowing enough to, if you're leading a ride and you have to be back at a certain time, it's kind of, I'm not saying it's selfish, but don't lead a ride if you've got a short window of opportunity, because things do happen. People have punctures, people blow out, etc. Anything can happen. You have
so
to.
Is that case when you're rushing for time, you'll get 4 punches and you go.
Yeah. I mean, I always remember that time, the ride I did, and someone had 6 punctures. And it was a very long day. But yeah, I think if you're planning to lead a ride, allow yourself enough time to lead the ride, definitely. And also, just going back to people turning up without routes, I think when we used to meet at the shop, a lot of people just used to turn up and then decide which route they were going to do there and then chances are they wouldn't have the route, and then it puts more pressure on everyone else, because obviously you want people to kind of rotate within that group. But if people are at the front and they don't have the route, it puts a lot of pressure on the people behind them. Is there any way we can kind of ensure people turn up with the route?
I guess it's make up as much as you can put on the group.
Yeah.
You can't.
I mean, it's fine on small, on groups of 6, but on groups of 16, when you've got 8 people without the route.
Yeah, you can only endeavour to try that. So, Daniel, question?
Yeah, is the shop open for coffee at the end of rides?
No.
Okay. Any recommendations? Is the what's that one like a couple of streets back from you? Is that one open? Do you know what I mean?
Coffee.
The 5 a.m. where the 5 a.m. club go, I think it's called.
Oh, Hucks.
Yeah, they open.
Yeah, that is open. Yep.
Okay, fine.
There is, if you come down Leebridge Road, where the station is at Stafford Road, do a right, follow it down into the estate. You'll see a roundabout. There is a little cafe, coffee bar there that does very nice food and sandwiches.
To be fair,
actually, there's a little coffee shop, a little coffee van right by Leebridge Station, isn't there now? I saw yesterday, I think.
It's only there in the morning, I believe.
Oh, right, okay.
To be fair, there's decent one in Walthamstow if you want to go.
Oh, in Crate.
Yeah, like long short.
Long and short.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's
I
also
like long and short.
There's other ones on you could go to what's that? London.
As you know, Andrew, you've seen what I've got in my setup for coffee. It's not for me, it's for others.
There's plenty.
Yeah, if there's one thing the area's not sure of, it is coffee shops.
Yeah. Does anybody have any other further questions or queries about this? Because I know obviously it's Thursday and
I just wanted to say, sorry.
No, okay, I'll keep it very quick because I've got to go myself. Just while we're mentioning Hucks, it just occurs to me if you do find yourself struggling because of time slots and sharing Leebridge Road, you can take a parallel route up through that direction. It's slower, and that could be just enough to put a dent in your time so that you drop behind another group, and you can share the STEM route out of London more easily that way, rather than getting anxious about whether you're all crowding together or not. Just picking a parallel route.
I've started doing a left before you get to Whipps Cross and going around the back that way. I think you go through, is it Millennium Park or somewhere? Back along Orient Way and back onto Leebridge Road that way. It just cuts out that whole horrible KFC bus stop scenario. I mean, it's a bit slower and it's kind of like a bit of a left, right, but it's kind of less stressful and safer as well.
Yeah, I think it's
on the way out.
Don't have to do it every week, but if there's a bit of a crowding with leave times, take the hit and just take your group on a slightly slower route, and then next week don't do it, take the faster route or whatever. Okay, guys, I've got to go. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Matt. Thank you.
See you all soon.
Bye.
Rob, did you have one, or Ollie?
Yeah, very quick, very quick, slightly different question actually for people like relatively new to ride leading. It's not like Kevin says. Actually, it's actually quite difficult. You just make it look easy, Kev. But one thing that potentially would help, and I'd probably make things a bit more complicated, but would be to go out with a more experienced ride leader who can give you feedback afterwards, just sort of like an apprenticeship. I don't know whether it's possible just with numbers of people and so on, but that would be really useful. And the other thing is there's actually quite a difference going out with people you know. That's a lot easier than just having a bunch of people you don't know. I mean, restricting it to 6 actually is a big help. That's a manageable number, but a little bit of help would certainly might encourage more people to sign up.
Probably agree with that. Yeah, definitely.
We could always say, if you want to be a ride leader, reach out to the current crop of ride leaders. So Rob, if you come out with me on Saturday and watch how I ride lead, which you've seen before because you've ridden me plenty of times, and then next week, for example, you could ride lead and I'd make sure I come out with you.
Yeah.
Ensure that you're doing it the way that I feel that it's the way to do it. Not necessarily the right way, but the way that I
Yeah.
do it. And then you're on your own after that. See you, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just to get some feedback, it would be really good, because otherwise you're sort of in the dark.
Yeah, and there is pressure on people's safety that you're worried about, and it's a responsibility, and I get that.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard, it's quite hard, actually.
If,
You know,
if you are going to do that, if you're going to use Spond and do a regular ride, set your ride limit to 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that will then you guarantee a place to someone else. But we're obviously, we'll keep an eye on making sure people aren't doing it on purpose to ride with people that they want to keep riding with. But no, feel free to just set your limit at 4 and then like ghost ride on that.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Ollie, do you have a question?
Yeah, no, I don't have a question. All I was going to say was, I think, it's a really good initiative to use Spond, because, we have always gone out with sort of 1 or more latterly like 2 B rides, with sort of 15 plus people. And actually groups of 6 make sense for rides anyway. And so, yeah, I just want to say thanks. I think it's a good initiative, and hopefully we can get some rides off the ground.
Yep, amazing.
To be fair, Ollie, we always try to limit rides to 8, but we've never been able to get ride captains. That essentially is one of the biggest issues that we do have, and it always has been, getting people to step forward and come up and take a ride. I've sort of taken out, I think I took out a group of 23 people on my own, which was an experience, and it wasn't a very nice one.
Who won the yellow jersey?
I don't. I know who everyone got really pissed off with. So that was how the club was obviously run before. But what we were trying to maintain was to facilitate rides for everyone. So we couldn't really sort of open doors at the shop, and that's why the WhatsApp used to be frantic on Thursday and Friday of me sort of saying, can anyone lead a ride? Can anyone lead a ride? It was because I knew that when I went in the shop on the Saturday morning, that was going to have sort of 2 ride leaders and 35, 40 people standing there. And then, but the way this is sort of turning out, and it's, to be fair, it's not something that, I really don't like the fact that there's going to be people that are going to be on the waiting list that may not be able to ride. And that to me is really sickening, as to me personally, and for the committee. But again, we're governed by, I'm now going to, if there are people on waiting lists, I've got 2 or 3 rides to put up tonight. I believe a few people have already requested to lead rides. So I'm going to sit here now for the next couple of hours trying to facilitate that. And then tomorrow I'll be looking at the waiting list, and then trying to, if there's people on the waiting list, I'm going to be trying to get more people to take a ride out. So yeah, it is a swings and roundabouts thing, unfortunately. But I think, as we all know, my heart is in the club, and predominantly I don't want to see people not being able to ride. That is not what we're members for. But
yeah, hopefully, because it's now just groups of 6, it might be a bit more appealing to people to step up and lead rides, because it's not so daunting as leading 15, 16 people. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, and I think Mike Mooney summed it up very well quite a few months ago, when he said people are going out in groups together, they're like making their own rides, and they're going to sort of experience captaining rides. If you're riding with a mate and you've got the route, you're captaining a ride. It's like if you're even with one other person, it's not, I know Rob said I make it sound easy, but sometimes I think in life we make things a lot more complicated than what it can actually be. But So hopefully, yes, it's sort of all pointing in the right direction. And Spond actually came out of thin air for a sort of conversation with someone. It was sort of, but quite a few clubs have taken up on it. So
If there's no other questions, we'll close this, and then people can enjoy their Friday if they've got off. And then hopefully we'll see each other all at some point. Right. Any other questions, queries? Either just drop Kev a message or myself or Stephen. We're all pretty experienced at this, so we can help out. So, and we're all pretty new to the app as well, so it'll be a bit of playing around with. So, have faith.
apologies for the lack of thingy, and thank you to Andrew for organising this tonight, because so I literally walked in the door half hour beforehand from being out since 5:30 this morning. So it's yes, my life has taken a turn in a new direction, and it's a lot longer hours.
Perfect,
So,
guys. Thank you all. Enjoy a nice evening and enjoy
Thanks.
the long weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Kev.
Yeah.
Great.